Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. We're going to talk about something that impacts the workplace, soft skills. What exactly is that? How does it translate? Even before we get to that, we're going to introduce our next two guests, and it's actually mother and daughter. And we're going to start with daughter. Donnica Hawes-Saunders joins us on the program. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having us.
Great to have you here. Before we introduce mom, I want to get your background first. You've identified you have a consulting business to some regard. Tell us more about that.
Yes, so I currently run a public affairs firm called the Averity Group, and we are national in scope, and we focus on highly regulated industries. So for folks that don't know what a public affairs firm does, we lobby, we do strategic communications, and we advocate on complex issues at both the federal and state levels. And how I even got to that particular point, I'm a lawyer by training, spent several years on Capitol Hill, then was recruited into multinational companies, which is where I got the global experience and also the global mindset, as well as started to think about potential clients for the future. And so did lobbying work there, did communications work there, did it for a couple of companies. And then while I was at those companies, I decided to go off on my own and start my own firm. And here we are several years later.
Fantastic. And you say public affairs. A lot of people, I believe, hear that term and relate it to public relations, but that's not really what you do.
It's more strategic than that. There is absolutely a PR component to it in that communications piece,
Sure.
But I like to explain it to people like this. If there is an issue going on, we can't just PR around it. We look at who are the influential voices that are impacting the broader sphere of opinions. How is that impacting what's happening from a regulatory or legislative perspective at the state and or local level? And then how can we plug in and start to build out some relationships? How can we build out coalitions? How can we make sure that the messages that we want to send or our clients want to send are truly resonating, but going beyond just the PR of it all and really into the relationship building and lobbying of it all?
Thank you for sharing that, because we've talked before and I didn't know you had a legal background. So very interesting. You got a lot going on over there. Wow. So that's Donnica. She was raised by her. And I say that because they have a podcast together called Raised by Her. We'll tell you more about that in a moment. Her being her mom, and that's Nita Hawes-Saunders, who's joining us today. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting us. It's good to see you again, Steve.
You too. And Ronita, your background is in the broadcast area and more. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, I actually went to school for theater communications and then eventually got into broadcasting. I was in television for a number of years, producing local affairs shows. And then I was called up one day by a local radio station and asked if I wanted to work part-time in radio. So I did a call-in talk show, 3 hours on Sunday night, and I was bitten by the radio bug. So that was exciting for me. And I began to compare my television experience and my radio experience and decided that I really loved the theater of the mind that radio really provides for us, a little bit different than television in terms of how you have to produce shows and how you have to keep the attention of the public. I went on and had the opportunity to build my own radio station, and then I purchased another station, and I did that for many years before I retired from radio, selling my company. And then I was the CEO of a modern contemporary dance company that traveled the world, the Dayton Contemporary Dance Company. So I've had quite an extensive experience in arts and entertainment. The first love that I have is to be able to make sure that people can feel good about themselves. People understand that there are actually individuals who are planning, programming ideas that can add something valuable to their life. And that's what I really want to make sure that we have an opportunity to do, even in our podcast today.
I had no idea that there was a dance component to your career. Wow, I'm glad we're doing this. Gotta ask, do you have an affinity for dancing? Do you dance?
No, I used to tell my staff if I was dancing, we'd never ever have a dance company. I administrate, I don't dance, but that's okay. I love to dance. I have two left feet, but I can do really, really good strategic planning, initiatives, and leadership skills are really what has helped me in the dance world. But I love arts and culture.
So we're talking about soft skills today, and it seems like as we're talking here, we're identifying a lot of hard skills. So let's talk about the soft skills. Donica, how do you define soft skills? I think she
I
may have froze.
define
Oh, where's your back?
soft skills as those skills transferable between whatever it is you want to do in your career. Like for me personally, it's going from having a legal career and being a lawyer to then transitioning into policy on Capitol Hill. What could I bring with me in terms of my legal training that wasn't just learning how to interpret the law to into actually writing the law, and then taking the skills that I learned on Capitol Hill and how did I translate that into a corporate environment, and learning how to build out broader relationships both internally and externally around communications. And then, of course, taking all of that and bringing that into what it takes to actually run a public affairs firm at the national level. And so for me, it really is transferable skills and things that you can take with you throughout your career as you continue to pivot.
If you were to pick the number one soft skill that you think is the most important, which one would it be?
Communication.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I stutter?
I kind of felt that coming, but yes, I mean, and that's transferable everywhere you go. Ronita, with your career dealing with so many different people, teams, staff, and all of that, looking at somebody's soft skills, was that also part of your hire?
Not initially. It was not a part of my hire. I really believe back in the 70s when I was breaking into my professional career that soft skills were inferred, maybe talked about a little bit, but we were, as women, and particularly as African American women, we were told to really focus on the hard skills. Because when your bosses are comparing you to someone else in terms of who they are going to hire, what individuals they will be really looking at to hire, the hard skills were going to be the skills that they would look for. So ideally, when you're comparing yourself to who your competition might be, make sure that you had those hard skills for the job down pat.
Mm. You know, the comparison is there. The results. What are you going to do for me? Where are the results? And I think now employers look more at the soft skills because that fuels the results, especially even teamwork. Donica, what are your thoughts about soft skills today?
I was going to say that I wonder if a part of how we approach this differently now and our thinking around it is due to the fact that folks are switching jobs at a faster pace and a more broad pace than was happening 40 or 50 years ago.
Would you say a soft skill would be even your worth ethic? We've talked about that before, and even general in terms of different generations, the mindset where now it's more of a focus on work-life balance, quality of life. Do you think worth ethic would be a soft skill?
Hmm. That's an interesting question. I hadn't thought about it as a soft skill. I kind of look at it as a required skill. But I suppose one's approach to their work can incorporate some level of how am I making sure that I am communicating and accessible, and if I am not going to work the traditional hours, how can I make sure that I am still utilizing all the tools that my organization provides? And again, there's so much more now. It's like, am I sending a text message? Are we going on Slack? Are we doing WhatsApp? Or is it generally an email? I just think it looks so much different today. But I actually think work ethic, it's as important as the hard skills and the soft skills.
I'm thinking, I'm processing that in my mind right now. And it's always been, previous generations, me and mom, that the worth ethic was you work hard, you get in there, you got to, always keep going, keep going. But now we look at it differently where there is a balance, but what's that balance going to be so that it benefits the employee but it also benefits the employer. Ronita, what are your thoughts?
As I was listening to the comments that Donica was making and your assessment, Steve, it reminded me of several years ago, I was doing some consulting work and I did a training workshop at a major corporation. And the workshop was called Corporate, excuse me, Succeeding in the Corporate Area, the Black and White. And the black and white had to do with the fact of understanding what those hard skills are in the corporate environment, understanding what the requirements were. I was training primarily African American men and women about how to be able to succeed in that corporate environment. We talked a lot about the hard skills yet again. This was 30 years ago. So I know today it is much different, but I thought if I had to teach that class today, I would have to indicate that in today's environment, we're looked upon differently, even as African Americans within the corporate world. Everybody is sort of jockeying for their position. And yet, if you are going to really strive for that work-life balance, if you're not going to work the extra hours, how then do you succeed in an environment that may see you as somewhat less, even though you're not,
Mm.
may see you as not as qualified, even though you're probably more qualified? The difference in perception of soft skills and the hard skills and what you need to do to succeed, I think, are pretty stark in terms of how we go about looking at the world.
With that, I'm thinking of the word adaptability and how that seems like a soft skill where we talk about going from one job to another. More that's happening more now than it ever did. Back in the day, you were there for 30 years. They give you the gold watch and you keep going. Now it's different. But now I'm looking at it this way. Is a soft skill something that you can't necessarily learn? There's a few of them there, but by and large, it's you, that skill that you bring that maybe others may not bring. What are your thoughts, Donica?
That's an interesting take. I think that soft skills, depending on what they are, can be learned. Communication skills, I think, in particular, can be learned. As my mother was talking, I was thinking about in that particular scenario that she mentioned, somebody showing up, having all of the qualifications that's necessary for the job. To me, that soft skill is being able to communicate and build out the relationship, whether you're in the board meeting or you're in the C-suite and external partners, you have to talk to those different constituencies and that allows you to be able to communicate all of those hard skills that you are bringing to the table.
Hmm. Yeah, some of the soft skills I've heard of could be certainly time management, leadership. Those can be taught, and certainly communication. Well, this is my personal opinion. They can be improved upon. They can be improved upon, but if your worth ethic is horrible in the beginning, nothing's going to change that. If your communication skills are, there's many IT people that don't really deal with the public and they're kind of doing their own thing and they're geniuses and that's the way they roll. Maybe you can't fully teach those communication skills. It's got to come from within, but maybe you can teach somebody, how to do IT, how to build websites, how to do AI, all of it. I'm thinking out loud here. I'd love your thoughts. What do you think, Bernita?
Yes, I agree with you, Steve. I was actually thinking about a couple of employees that I invested quite a bit of time, energy, effort, and money. One was really successful because they got it. They picked up on the lessons. They read the extra books that I would give to them. They went to the seminars, came back, and we had discussions about them. And I think that it was a desire on their part to be able to move up in management, to be able to demonstrate that she was capable of one day running her own company, and she did all of the extra work with in terms of the soft skills as well as understanding the necessity for the hard skills. And I'm saying the necessity. One of the things that I recommended was that she go back to school And so at some point she did that. And so today she has a very successful career doing the things that she has a passion for. So it worked. The other employee, however, did not apply all of the rules, regulations, and decided to go their own way. Today, they are not as successful. They're still doing the same things that they were doing way back then and actually complaining about the fact that the world is not fair and this is not something that should be happening to me. You know, all of those emotions and those things that people really go through when they don't take personal responsibility. So I think it's a good combination of what are you willing to do and how do you understand the necessity for the soft skills and for the hard skills.
It sounds like the latter person that you mentioned didn't have the soft skill known as emotional intelligence nailed down. It's what it sounds like to me. I don't know. Creativity. Creativity. Donnica, is that a soft skill? I think we're having a Wi-Fi issue. I think she froze up again. All right, I'm going to pivot over to Ronita. What do you think?
Um,
Yeah, well, Donica, can you hear us?
Can you
You
hear us?
froze. Can you hear us?
yes, I can. Yes, I apologize for whatever Wi-Fi issue is
All good.
occurring. But do I think creativity is a soft skill? Hmm. I hadn't thought of it previously as a soft skill. But if I had to think about it in terms of what are the hard skills in terms of like the numbers and the finances, I suppose creativity would fall more towards the right brain. But I just also really, yes. So you know what, let's qualify it as a soft skill because as I'm talking it out with you and thinking aloud, I'm thinking creativity, it is not necessarily something that um, folks have an interest in. Maybe they do if they're a creative person, but even if you don't, like I don't necessarily view myself as a creative. However, leaning into some of the skill building around creativity has done nothing but benefit me in my career thus far, whether it's taking a theater class and doing a better job at presentations and giving speeches or enrolling in a creative writing class. And so my approach to legalese has a broader audience than what would previously be anticipated. So, you know, let's call it an excellent soft skill to develop.
Even creative problem solving, where it's not like we're painting, drawing, or anything like that, coming up with creative presentations, but a creative way of finding a solution. Ronita, what do you think?
Well, when you mentioned before the whole area of emotional intelligence, I think the creativity sort of falls into that basket in terms of being able to understand
Mm.
how you can use creativity to succeed at whatever it is that you're doing. Fortunately, in my life, when I look at my creative skills, it's something that was nurtured by my parents and something that I was able to, I think, lean into from a young child all the way through my professional career. It also had an element of risk taking in the midst of it, which I think is real important when you are a highly creative individual that wants to create something and feels that you're capable of doing that. So yes, Steve, I think it can be a soft skill, but I also think for those of us, especially in arts and culture, really feel that creativity is one of the hard skills that we need to be able to have. We need to be able to communicate, and that we can really help, I think, the world benefit from.
I love how we're talking. We're kind of feeling this out, and I think it's beautiful. Um, I'm getting a thought here that soft skills are transferable to other positions, but hard skills may not be. So I'm an IT person. I want to be an IT person. I love IT. I spent 10 years doing it. I'm kind of burned out now. So I'm going to pivot over to auto repair. I love auto repair. The IT part of it, not so much, is going to transfer over there, but all of my soft skills are going to transfer, be it my creative problem solving, my time management in my auto repair, emotional intelligence, have to deal with customers and other people on my team. It seems that soft skills are transferable. What do you think?
I like that framing.
I just made that up.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a question for Donica. Donica, when you think about your dad and his experience, his background, he was an aeronautical engineer. And we think about the fact that he was chosen a couple times to be a manager, and he did not want to be a manager in his work environment. He preferred to be the lead project director on whatever project he was working on, but not to be managing several people. Do you think that his soft skills would have been transferable based upon his whole left brain approach to the world and the things that you know that he was capable of doing and he accomplished in his career?
What an excellent question. I think that had he put forth the effort to learn some of those soft skills that we've been talking about, that yes, he could have. But I also firmly believe that you get to a place in your career where you are really making those decisions. What do I want my life to look like? What do I want my work to look like? And so I think it's an excellent conversation to have with yourself as somebody's navigating their careers, and then you can make that informed decision whether or not I want to invest the time and the money and the effort into learning soft skills or more transferable skills, or is my preference, for whatever reason, to stay where I am because I enjoy the work so much.
Right. And
This
that's
has
what
been
he chose to do.
great conversation today, gotta say. Your podcast, Raised by Her. I'm gonna go to her. I'm gonna ask her first, Ronita. Why did you guys decide to do a podcast together, mother and daughter?
We have a really close relationship, Steve. And during the pandemic, our conversations were longer and longer because we did not have an opportunity to be together as often as we did. And we would get off the phone and then we would start thinking about it, either text each other or call back and say, that was a really good discussion about whatever it was going on in the world or something that we were passionate about, or how we were adjusting and adapting to the new world that we had to live in. And so we began to have a conversation about having a podcast to really talk about our relationship, how we were able to successfully maneuver getting through the pandemic scenario, and what lessons we wanted to share with the world. And so that's how this began. It took a while. I had some other excuse me, I had some other priorities, but here we are today doing our podcast.
Interesting. Donnica, what's your view?
Very similar from my perspective in terms of how this all came about. The only thing I would add is that I have found not just the conversations I have with my mother, but myself and all of her wisdom and all of her experience really helpful as I navigate not just my career, and she's already been through it, 5 times already throughout her life at different stages. She can give me some really great advice. And in the spirit of wanting to just help people as they try to navigate both their careers and their lives, I also just thought it'd be an excellent idea to share her more broadly, so other folks can benefit from her wisdom.
I gotta tell you, I love the dynamics between you two. And I'm not saying that just because we're here. You're both very professional in your chosen fields. It's almost as if if you told me that you weren't related, I would believe that, because you're doing your own thing, but you're also doing it together, which I find beautiful. And your relationship is fantastic. Yeah, I've seen the two of you, and I'm going to be honest, Ronita. We were waiting for Donnica to come on here. You were speaking with her. I don't even know if you knew I was here, but you were like, "All right, sweetie, I'll see you in a second." I'm like, "What a wonderful relationship! You guys are great." I love it. How do we find your podcast? I'm going to assume it's on pretty much every platform, Donnica.
Exactly. It's on every platform that you can listen or watch podcasts. And then also you can find clips and commentary and engage with us across all social media platforms at Raised by Her podcast.
Not every parent and their child can do a podcast and be comfortable. My son, they call him mini me. We're a lot alike, but we're not a lot alike. I guess we could pull it off, but I don't know if I'd have the same synergy. And he's 19 now. My older daughter, nothing wrong with it. You guys are blessed that you can do it. Definitely check it out. It's a great podcast, Raised by Her. Thank you both for being here today. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.